Hey everybody, we are teaching Tilt Brush, and this time on teaching Tilt Brush, we're going to be looking at the particle brushes. Now the particle brushes are different in that they don't do a line of paint. You're not making single brush strokes with these particle brushes. A particle brush leaves behind, like its name would imply, pieces, little particles, little individual dots following that stroke you did. There's actually about 4 different types of particle brush, and they're related to a 5th as well. So this particular brush is called stars, and as you can see, the brush stroke leaves stars in its path. We also have a particle brush called snow, and we're going to have our snow turn green. So again, you're painting with a stroke, but it's not leaving a brush stroke behind. It's leaving these particles. Particle brush number 3, we're going to switch to orange and put in embers. Again, it follows the line of paint you made, but embers has the little sparks that go up and fade out. So we have snow that gently falls, stars that just kind of sparkle, embers that rise, and the other type of particle brush is bubbles. So if I paint, we're going to switch to a nice vibrant purple and paint the bubbles over here. You can see the stroke follows these particles. In this case, little bubbles. So these particle brushes are what we're going to talk about today, and a little bit more on how to control them and how you can use them. All of them share the same properties on size and control. When you paint one of these objects, we're going to zoom in really close to these guys here. You can see how the particles do have a shape. So the stars particles are all little stars and crosses, whereas the snow particles are actual snowflakes. And if you can get some close enough to the camera, there we go, you can see that they actually fall in a regular pattern. The embers are just little dots, and if you get up close, they're just little squares. But they do change color. They sort of darken and fade out over time. And the bubbles are all uniform bubbles. They all are affected by your light source, and they're affected by the color of your paint. Their animation is they just sort of wobble in place. All of these things are controlled by the size of your brush. Now, they actually control 2 different aspects of it. I'm going to clear these guys out, and we're going to start with the stars, because that makes a good example here. Now, if I'm at normal size, and I have a normal size brush, when I paint the stroke, the diameter is about 6 inches. And the stars take place in that area. Each individual star is about 1 centimeter across. So if I bring it up close to the camera, you can see the individual shapes, but it itself, at actual size, I can hold in 2 hands. It's about 6 to 8 inches in diameter. The bigger you make your brush, it increases both the diameter of the spread, so you can see this is a wider line than that one, but it also increases the size of the sprite itself, of the shape of the particle. So this means if I go up to dinosaur size, get a very large brush, so here's my platform, get a very large brush and swipe through, 6 inches at dinosaur size, 1 centimeter at dinosaur size translates into these great large pulsing lights all around me in a 6-foot diameter. So the size of the brush and the relative size of scale changes both the diameter of your stroke and the size of the sprites themselves. So let me clear this out, and we're going to compare that to snow. We're going to get a nice pale gray for our snow. I'm going to go very, very tiny. I'm going to go down to squirrel size. Now I'm going to go for a very tiny, tiny snow brush and wipe. You can probably even barely see it in the camera. I'm going to try moving it closer to the camera. But it's these little tiny, tiny white particles. There, now you can see the snow falling. And I'm at squirrel size. If I jump back to human size, there it is. It's this little tiny, barely visible sparkle. I'm now going to continue up to dinosaur size and go for a big brush. One quick swipe. And you can see the snow zone is even bigger than the entire walking space. If I go back to normal size, and now I'm going to move the snow closer to me, I'm still normal size, and the individual snowflakes, it's like 3 inches across. They're very far spread apart. The zone is larger. So the larger the brush, the larger the zone, and the larger the particle size. The more you paint, the more particles it does indeed put in place. So the longer I do this, the more snow it keeps putting into place. And now all the snow is gently snowing. A blizzard, as opposed to just one stroke of light snow. This can start to push the lighter headsets. So the Oculus Quest and things can be a little overloaded by too much snow. Also, the way I painted this, it was one long continuous stroke. So a single undo will get rid of most of that smoke at once. Or a single click of the eraser gets rid of that whole set at once. Now all I've left is the giant ones here. There we go, back to normal size. So the particles, snow, stars, embers, the animation with embers, it's actually going up. Let me get to a nice vibrant red here. Going up. No matter which way I paint the line, these embers always go up. Even if I select that line, it's the line itself, and rotate 90 degrees, embers still go up. Embers always go up. You can't have your embers go any other direction. Sorry, use streamers or anything else if you want it to go down. With embers, the white value does affect the color, but also the brightness. So here's a very vibrant red as opposed to a very, very dark red. The difference is subtle. The bright red has more glow to it, whereas the dark red, it's more like confetti instead of sparks. They're still flying up, but they don't have that vibrant glow. These are the bright reds. These are the dark reds. So if I switch to our greens, this is a vibrant green. You can see how the bottom line here has a glow to it, as opposed to a dark green doesn't have that extra glow. So embers, and in fact most of them, the color values will affect the way they appear, and you can play with combinations to get a range of effects. Embers always go up. Bubbles, its animation always stays in place. So here's some tiny bubbles. Increase, increase, bigger bubbles. Increase, increase, gigantic bubbles. Now when I go back to normal size, we've got gigantic bubbles, medium bubbles, small bubbles, but you'll notice they're all still wavering together. Regardless of the size, regardless of when you painted them or color or anything, they're all caught in the same medium. So they'll all pulse and sway at the same rate. So no matter how you draw your bubbles, it's always going to match in pattern with all the other bubbles around it. You don't have to worry about two sets of bubbles moving at different speeds. If you really want two sets of bubbles moving at different speeds, tough. So I'm going to switch to another color. One other thing that's fun to do with particles, in fact, I'm going to switch to our Embers particle. As with a lot of other tools, as you experiment, we can do a straight line with these particle tools as well. You can see, let's get brighter so you can see the line itself a little more clearly, which means I can do perfect circles with these brushes. This is now a burning hoop. See, it keeps that perfect circle shape, but it's going to keep the pattern as we go. Let's see if we can do it. I'm going to switch to a very large size. Actually, let's switch so we can go for small size embers. We're going to make our perfect circle. And then I'm going to continue to a perfect sphere. Here's where the PC users have the advantage. A Quest can't quite do the math for a sphere. Now you'll notice if I go too big with a sphere, that's how we get a cup or a bowl. So I'm going to keep mine a sphere. When I let go, this whole sphere is burning. There we go. Even my high-end computer had trouble with that for a moment, so now let's get it down to a small sphere. This one is actually very hard to see just because there's so many sparks. It's almost a fog. So the particles, if you really push them too far, there is the sphere shape here. Embers didn't work because it's going up and it's burning too quickly. Let's try a different particle. Stars, for example, that don't move around, they just blink. So we're going to go for small size to keep them tight together but still be sparkly visible. Straight line tool. First we'll do circle. A circle of stars. Whether you make it bigger or smaller, circle of stars. Now we can see it's almost like a tube about 4 inches in diameter. Let's try taking that same stars and go full sphere. Circle, sphere. We'll get the sphere, trust me. There we go. And again, too big goes for cup. Small scale sphere. We can go for super small sphere, but some things have trouble, and I want to get a little more zone on it, so we're going to go for a good sized sphere like that. Now again, even my high-end computer has trouble with that many particles. Now that it's in place, there. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. Particles. So as you zoom in, they are indeed lots of little stars. But now it's an object, it's a shape that I can use. I can even move, change its size. Particles. Too much of this will blow out lower end systems, even higher end systems, but this is how we can create some of the more stunning effects. That's about as big as we're going to want to get that before my computer starts to chug, and even streaming becomes difficult. So the particle brushes. The final one that's related to the particle brushes, let's get a review. The final one that's related to the particle brushes is smoke. You'll notice when I've got a good smoke color going, we've done this before, it's got that same undulation. And just like our bubbles, if I paint lots of smoke, even smoke at different sizes, different colors, that type of thing, you can see that it all still undulates together as one piece. Think of smoke as a lot of little particles in that tube animated like the bubbles. So it's not blinking like stars, but it's following that same wobble as the bubbles. And in fact, it is the same wobble as the bubbles. So if I add some bubbles to this mix, you can see that they're all undulating at the same speed, at the same pattern. Mostly it's trying to give everything roughly the same overall effect so your painting holds together a little more cohesively. Likewise, like most of the other animated brushes, if you have sounds going, all of these particles will respond in time to the music as well. Most of them are audio brushes to boot. Final fun special effect is to do that straight line effect, straight edge spheres with smoke, because with smoke, actually let's make it as small as we can here. With smoke, because it all undulates together, you can get some very interesting effects as far as an entire globe that's moving. Or if you stretch it out to a bowl, you can do a very effective jellyfish, provided, of course, you can get your perfect circles to start working in the first place. Works so great with the particle effects, it's now giving me a problem with the smoke. Come on, guys. 1, 2, 3, center. You may have to take my word for it, but it worked great in the practice runs. There we go. Circle. And then, sorry Quest users, but us PC users can then upgrade that to the sphere, provided we hit the center point. Now, again, if I make it too big, it goes into bowl mode. But if I keep it a small sphere, when I make this smoke, you can see the whole sphere is undulating together. And if I add more smoke to it, let's actually turn that on so I can fill this with smoke. You can see how the whole piece still holds its form. And any other articles I add in there, so we'll add some purple stars, we'll add a little bit of the bubbles coming in. So the whole animation works together. The whole piece ties together. All of our particle brushes still play nicely with our regular brushes. We just have to think about how we paint them a little bit more different. Hopefully this will help you and inspire you to do some more exciting artwork. We look forward to seeing what you do, so go ahead and keep letting us know in the comments and things. Let us know if there are questions about items you want us to do a class on. We do a lot of questions and answers both here, live on Twitch TV/Shameless Mayhem, as well as recorded through YouTube.com/Shameless Mayhem. So have fun with your particle brushes and tilt brush, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Have fun, everybody.